Hello and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Musician, a newsletter, coaching service, podcast, and blog preparing today's musicians for tomorrow's realities. This is TEM281 titled Slow Down. Thank you to Parker Mouthpieces for providing the hosting for TEM. Parker Mouthpieces offers fine, customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz Artist Model tuba mouthpiece. You can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. True to form, these things either get recorded in essentially one take or they're a hot mess. It's usually the former and not the latter. Today is a hot mess. Allergies are absolutely slaying me today. This is take 7 of completely restarting the entire video. What could possibly go wrong? Here we go. Did you know that TEM has a newsletter? I feel like I just said this. That's because I did. It's called the Portfolio Career Playbook, and it includes, among other things, the Quartet of Ideas, which comes out every Thursday, which features the tools, actionable advice, and inspiration needed to thrive in today's music business. I swear I just said this. This coming Thursday's issue features an article about making better decisions faster and much more. Subscribe today, and you'll also be enrolled in an email course from TEM Coaching, which I've been getting good feedback on. You can learn more about that course, as well as the newsletter, which you can unsubscribe from anytime. Go to signup.tem.fm today. Okay, TEM 281, slow down. I think I might need to take my own advice here. Speaking of which, I took a week off from the podcast and the newsletter because I was traveling for gigs and teaching, and it's really good to be back. Okay, a few years ago, when I was having dinner with a mentor, he shared something with me that has really stuck with me to this day. He asked me how things were going, and I told him they were fine, but that life was crazy. I was flying around the world playing gigs at the time. I had teaching studios at 2 different universities, and I had a lot going on in my personal life. He suggested that I slow down a bit. I quickly answered in agreement and started to tell him all the reasons why that was a good thing for me to do, and he lovingly cut me off, looked me right in the eyes, and said, "Andrew, slow down." That made me stop dead in my tracks and simply say, "Okay," with a smile. Yes, he was talking about my schedule, but I was in a lot of binary situations at the time, meaning I either teach at a university or I don't teach at a university. I can't exactly tell them that classes are canceled for the week because a mentor told me I should chill out a little. Same goes for playing gigs I had already agreed to. This past weekend, I was either on Long Island to perform and teach like I said I would, or I wasn't. I can't do part of it or I can't put it off. Now, our schedules are a little bit more controllable than we think, but he wasn't only talking about my schedule. He was talking about simply slowing my brain down as well. I don't know about you, but my brain is pretty much always going a million miles an hour, or at least it sure feels like it. And filed under "you can't make this up," as I was typing out that sentence about my brain always going a million miles an hour, I suddenly thought about flowers that I have to order as a thank you to a friend's wife for letting me stay at their house for a couple of days when I am in Chicago for a gig next month. I've been busier this fall than I've been in 10 years, and small tasks that I haven't quite gotten to are piling up in my inbox and elsewhere, and one will randomly pop into my head when I'm trying to do something like write a TEM episode. The problem is that having a brain that is bouncing from one thing to another all the time is really bad for productivity. We pay a cognitive price for task switching, which is when we switch from, say, writing a TEM episode to looking at our inbox when it dings and then back again. It takes a few seconds to mentally get back on task, and that is enough to derail any momentum we had quite frequently. We've all experienced this before, that frustrating feeling that we can't seem to get going with songwriting or writing a podcast episode or in the practice room. The other problem, though, is that I didn't think about those flowers because I got a notification. I wasn't talking about Chicago. I wasn't talking about flowers. It just popped into my head for absolutely no reason at all. All I know is that I do better work when my brain is going slower, thus enabling me to focus. Not only is the final product of whatever I'm doing better, but I also get the same results in less time or with less energy spent or with both. So how do I go about slowing down my brain? It is worth noting that I have to be intentional about it rather than simply waiting for it to happen organically, which I'm pretty sure is never going to happen. The first thing I do is breathe. In fact, unless you are driving or walking or in some other way moving, something that you are controlling, close your eyes with me right now. Taking a very slow breath through your nose and a slow exhale through your mouth. One more time. And out through the mouth. And this time really slowly through the nose. And out through the mouth. And open your eyes. I don't know about you, but that just took the edge off for me big time. I even just did that 3-breath thing while I was writing the episode, and both times gave me a sense of calm. Okay, the other thing I do is meditate for 3 minutes. I have a 3-minute timer saved in my phone that I can go to anytime. It is really quite rare that I can't carve out 3 minutes to meditate. I can even go to the bathroom and hide from my son and dog and take 3 extra minutes in the bathroom to meditate and then come back out, and they have no idea that I was just meditating. If I am stuck on something while practicing or while working on some business aspect of my portfolio career, getting a 3-minute reset is very effective. And guess what I want to do during a 3-minute reset? I want to look at my phone. But that can get my brain spun up all on its own. The upcoming election I'm stressed about, or tonight's World Series game that I'm worried about, or insert any of about 100 other things here, like the webpage I had up earlier today from a flower shop in Chicago. It is best to simply try to unplug from my tuba, my computer, my phone, everything, just for 3 minutes. The last thing I'll say about meditation is that the first few times I tried it, I was really not very good at it. Ideally, you don't judge whether a meditation is good or bad, it just is. But in my experience, when you first start, it's very hard to not judge, and it's not going to go well. I attempted 5 minutes that first time, and I looked at the timer after what I felt had been longer than 5 minutes. I opened my eyes to make sure that the timer had actually gone off. It had been less than 2 minutes. So if you are new to meditation, just know that there is a learning curve, but that in my experience and the experience of, I think, every single person I know who actually has put in the work to get through the dip, as Seth Godin would say, I promise you it's worth it. And also know that there are many different kinds of meditation. It's not just clearing your mind, as is commonly believed. There are guided meditations and unguided meditations. There are meditations centered around a specific subject and ones that are more generic. In my experience, the act of simply doing it is where the benefit comes from. So don't worry what kind you start with or try to find the perfect one for you. You're going to find that through experience, through action, not through just researching more. And for what it's worth, YouTube is a great place to start if you want to get into meditating. There's a lot of guided meditations there. It's also just some advice on meditating, or you can just use your phone timer and close your eyes. Yet another thing I do is set my intentions each time I switch to a new activity. I ask myself, who needs me at my absolute best right now? When writing this episode, the answer to that question is you. And I'm not trying to pander here. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that I'm like saving lives here by putting out a podcast, but it's a ton of work putting this thing out every week. And like you, I've got a lot of irons in the fire. And it would free up a lot of time if I were to stop putting this podcast out. But when I think about all the feedback I've gotten over the years from people who have generously shared how helpful TEM has been to them, it makes it easy to sit down and crank out the 281st episode as I'm doing today. I guess I shouldn't say easiest since this is like my 7th take, but anyway, I digress. Sometimes that person who needs me at my best in some given situation is my son, because maybe this is something that's going to make me money long term, and he is going to be the main person who benefits. Sometimes it is a specific TEM coaching client. Sometimes the person who needs me at my best is me. All I know is that I'm always able to stay motivated when I set my intentions before any activity, And the byproduct of that motivation is staying focused. In other words, it helps to slow my brain down and keeps those flowers in Chicago at bay. So there's a lot of ways to be able to slow your brain down. I would just encourage you to at least think through the process of slowing your brain down and doing it regularly throughout the day. And if you really pay attention to the results, I think you'll be amazed at how much more you get done in less time and with less energy exerted. Okay, this week's quote is from Jim Rohn and aligns perfectly with the slowing of the brain. No one else makes us angry. We make ourselves angry when we surrender control of our attitude. Surrendering control of our attitude is the opposite of slowing our brains down, and it kills creativity. I once had a mentor. This is a different mentor than the one that opened the show here this week. Tell me that he finds it fascinating that he no longer has to attend every argument he's invited to. That was a real aha moment for me. No one can force me to jump into an argument. That is always by choice. And to be clear, there are plenty of times when accepting an invitation to argue is the best path forward because you are fighting injustice or something serious. I'm just talking about like day-to-day stuff like a miscommunication with a collaborator or a tense moment in a rehearsal. It's a good reminder to me that how I respond is a choice. And that if I take active measures throughout the day to slow my brain down, that there's a much better chance of me pausing between the impulse and the action. Thank you to everyone for listening, subscribing, leaving a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get TEM, and simply for your attention, the most valuable commodity any of us have to give. TEM is produced by myself, Andrew Hitz, and is a part of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. The theme music for TEM is played by Ben Barron, Rich Kelly, Daniel Lapel, and myself, Andrew Hitz. For show notes, the TEM blog, and to learn more about how TEM coaching can help you move your career forward, please visit the website tem.fm. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We also have a YouTube channel, and you can sign up for our newsletter. And that's going to do it for the latest episode of The Entrepreneurial Musician.